Welcome back. I'm Eugene Sakai, co-founder of Studio S Squared. We've been around since 1997. We're a full-service architecture, interior design, and now landscape architecture firm, designing homes all over the San Francisco Bay Area and more recently the Monterey Peninsula. We work collaboratively with clients and each other to create unified designs from the moment you pull into the driveway to the moment you're relaxing in the great room of your home. Today, we are going to spotlight our landscape design process and get into the real how of how we do it. So welcome to our video, Landscape Design at Studio S Squared, Part 2, How. So here with me today again is Jose Arisabajo, my business partner, and also the head of our landscape design team. He's also the head of our architectural team, but in reality, it's the same team. To have a look at our part 1 video for a bit more background on who the players are there, because today we're going to be getting into the how of how we get the process done. So Jose, I have up here a pretty intimidating looking flow charts of the landscape design process within our firm. You know, we're not going to touch on all aspects of this, but suffice to say, it's a pretty organized approach. What would you say are some of the highlights of that approach?
Yeah, so some of the most important steps of the approach is when we will meet with you on the development and kickoff meeting once we have the information ready, once we have the landscape ideal book, so we can review it, and once we have the arborist report, and once we have visited the site. Then after that, we will start developing the terrain in 3D, and we will also start working on the front yard design. From there, we will send the design to clients, and then we will get feedback on the front, and then we will apply that same feedback that we are getting with those comments for the front yard. We will apply it once we develop the sides and back, keeping everything with the same style that we already know that you like for the front. And the next steps, then we will have once we send you the design, we will have some comments for the sides and back. Normally, because we already have a good understanding of the style of the front, at that point, there is not a lot of comments. And then once you like the overall design, we will have a design that is ready to move into the next stage. That is when the landscape architect will start working with you on the planting plans, and also on after you like the different selections, then he will start working also on the technical landscape plans. Those plans, once those are ready, we will submit to the planning department if planning is required in your jurisdiction. And at the same time, once those plans are ready, we will also send them to the civil engineer. So the civil engineer also can also start with their plans on the grading and drainage plans that are required for most jurisdictions. After we submit for planning, we will get some comments from planning. We will address those comments, and then we will get the planning approval. And from there, normally there is no more changes to the landscape design, and we start working on the landscape construction document. At that point, once we have the landscape construction documents, we will develop a landscape lighting plan. We will add all the dimensions. We will specify all the finishes. We will use our 3D model to extract views from the actual design, and all that information we will send it to you on plans that you can also send us comments and we will address. After that, those plans, and once you approve them, those plans are ready to send to contractors so they can price the actual work that will happen on the landscape. You can go through competitive bidding, so you can ask with the same plans, the same landscape construction documents to different contractors. They can provide you different prices, and then you can choose the one that you like more. Then during construction, we will also be helping doing site visits as needed, and with any questions at any point.
That was a mouthful, Jose. Thank you for all of that. And just as a reminder to our viewers, these flow charts are color-coded so that anything in orange is something that Studio S Squared is doing on your behalf. Anything in gray is typically an action item for you, the client. Red is the jurisdiction, green is an outside third-party engineering firm, in this case the civil, blue is the contractor. And as you can see, the most input is really between Studio S Squared and yourself as the client. And that's evocative, or that's indicative of our very interactive process. It's a lot of back and forth, a lot of creative engagement with you as the client. So you're really the one kind of guiding the vision, and we're helping bringing it to life and enhancing that vision for you. All right, great. So here we're going to take a brief pause and have Jose fly you through the detailed design for this project here. And we're seeing snippets of that project. But Jose is first going to give you an overview of this design, which is a really lovely house that we're currently designing in Pebble Beach.
Thank you, Eugene. So this is the Deter residence in the 17-mile drive in Pebble Beach. It's a home that we have designed from the landscape to the architectural and interiors. And I'm going to go over some of the main reasons why we think that our collaborative, kind of like integrated approach helps to connect all the different designs from interior to landscape to exterior. So this home is facing the ocean here on this side. The overall vision of our clients, they wanted to have a butterfly roof integrated in the design, and that's why we actually resolved the entire roof with 3 butterfly roofs that open the views towards the ocean. On the approach of this home, there is a road here, and this is the gates to enter into the property. So even if the front elevation is here, this perspective from here is the first view of the home. And then this other view as well is very important too. It's going to be very visible when you are waiting here at the gates. And it's just, this home is a home that has to work perfectly from pretty much like all points of view. So this is, as we knew, like this was going to be like a very important elevation. So we designed at the same time this elevation, the home, with the landscape itself. We knew that in this area, our client wanted to have some planting beds. So we actually designed like a rhythm of like having like 3 planting beds here that relate with the actual windows here. And then they are perfectly symmetric with the center of this window that also keeps the entire composition kind of like just perfect. There is another connection that we created here. We didn't want to have like with a very clean roof like this one. We didn't want to have downspouts that were gonna make the elevations look a little bit easier. So we created a ranging here to drain like all the water from here into this area of the landscaping. It's another way to resolve something that from the architectural could have looked a little bit easier in a very clean way that is actually integrated with the landscape design. When we go towards the entry in this area, like all the topography has been modeled exactly per the civil engineer topographic survey, and all these trees are the existing trees in the property. So actually the existing trees were influencing the shape of the driveway. And we found kind of like this perfect point. We wanted to create a very nice balance for the entry from this point of view. So we created these 2 squares on the sides that help with that balance over keeping them symmetric with the entry. And then on this side, when this kind of like space ends, is when the driveway changes from coming diagonal to horizontal. And then on this other side, keeps going up to a point where here also creates a space for a couple of outdoor parking spaces. We also created a sequence when you're entering to the home with a curtain with the steel planter boxes that kind of like flank your entry when you are entering into the home. And then these planter boxes are also kind of like aligned and also in points where they are integrated with the actual landscape. From this point of view, we also thought that this is amazing property that has great views of the ocean. So we thought maybe, and since our clients wanted to have a couple of spaces here for outdoor parking, we thought maybe we can create kind of like an exterior living room where there could be even meetings here or more informal meetings with friends, but then they would have a space to be on the exterior looking at the ocean. and kind of like another space that instead of being on the interior is just directly on the exterior, on the landscape. And then when we go down, we also included like this small shrub here to differentiate a little bit more like the more public areas from the more private areas. But when we are going down to the backyard here, this is a space that when we were like visiting the site, we knew that our clients love to enjoy the fire pit area. So, and this is a site where there's a lot of wind. So we, like, by going to the site and experiencing the different areas, we found out that this was like a perfect point to have the, on one hand, be covered by the wind, because it's at a lower elevation, and it's covered more like by the wind, by some like tall bushes here. And then at the same time, from here, you have a very nice view of Point Lobos. So it's always about finding those coordinations in between landscape with architecture, but also views that happen from the landscape to outside, like for example, in this case, to the ocean or Point Lobos that is here, and also views that happen from the interior of the spaces to the exterior and how the landscape is visible from the interior space. There is also a very beautiful tree here that we were thinking that we could keep the linear fire pit also aligned with this pine tree that then could also be illuminated, kind of like illuminated up. So you will see, it's not only important the view from this area towards Point Lobos, that is amazing, but it's also a very nice view when you are here on this side of the table and you have the tree directly in front and you are seeing a very nice tree completely aligned. Then our clients wanted to have an outdoor kitchen, but at the same time, they didn't want to block the views from this area here. So when you enter into the home, you see, and that's why one of the reasons why the landscape also is it has a lot of influence on how it's visible from the interior. It has to be thought from the interior spaces too. Having an outdoor kitchen here could block the views of the ocean, and that's kind of like the main point of this project. So we thought on doing another level down here, but it's actually very nicely connected with the kitchen. And then at the same time, it kind of like keeps everything hidden. And in addition to the outdoor kitchen that our clients were thinking, we also added a nice bar area here that was unexpected to them, but it's going to be a very nice space to also enjoy the views of the ocean directly from here. Coming some steps down more is where we have the fire pit area where we're viewing. So there's also kind of like a sequence of like the more spaces here, the spaces here are more connected to the interior, the outdoor kitchen, and then the fire pit area, kind of like for after the party to come here to this other area that is more connected to the ground level. And then like some very interesting, like maybe just to finalize, like one very interesting thing that happened was that our clients wanted to hide the existing, because we actually kept the foundation for this home, and they wanted to hide the existing meters in this area. And we actually found a way to create a base to the design that hides the existing meters that were saving a very good amount of money. And then it's all integrated. They are not going to be visible. They are going to be nicely integrated here with the design. And yeah, everything is one good example for how the landscape, the architecture, and the interior. Also, when we are designing on the finishes, we like to design on the finishes at the same time from the finish for the interior hardwood, flooring, and how that's going to work with the tile that we have on the exterior. So yeah, it's a very good example for how all those three disciplines can work very nicely together when we are looking at them as a just one vision approach.
Well, that was great, Jose. I can really appreciate all of the careful thought that went into each of these gestures. And holistically, I think what's revealed by you having walked through all this is the way in which you and your team think about a site as a series of moments and how to bring all those together in a cohesive whole that relate the building to the site and the site to the interior. Just on this project alone, you touched on several of those where you've essentially created a series of key moments and key views and perspectives and outdoor rooms, all on a very challenging site with an existing building footprint, with an existing driveway that we kind of had to more or less keep the pathway of. And yet, even though there's a lot of slope and terrain and complexity of the site, those actually became opportunities, not constraints, opportunities to create moments of interest and moments of different levels of activity, private, public, intimate, grand scale, as opposed to just saying, oh, here's your outdoor room right off of the Great Room, which I think, is a very simplistic approach. Thinking about the whole site as a design opportunity and as a series of moments for different activities and different ways to appreciate the land and the views and the architecture and the interiors all at the same time. So I think this is, I'm really glad you picked this project because I think it's one of our best. And at the same time, it also reflects some very fundamental ideas that can translate to any site, whether you have an ocean view or whether you're just looking at your neighbors, across a fence line. The idea of designing a property holistically is one that is universal and not limited to sites that are spectacular as this one. So I'm really glad you showed this because I think a lot of the lessons learned here are applicable to any site, any project, and any client. So Jose, thank you again for that tour of our Pebble Beach project. Spectacular, but as I said, also applicable to all of our projects. Also applicable is our approach to construction documents. And these are some isolated moments from the project you just showed us, correct? Where essentially the model becomes the basis for construction documentation and further detailing for construction.
Yes, that's one of the great things too, that our designs are directly, and our models are directly used for our construction documents. So nothing gets lost because everything that you're seeing on the 3D model is what we are gonna document in our landscape designs, in our landscape documents, sorry. So yeah, these are just like some screenshots from our from the landscape construction documents from this project and how we are dimensioning everything directly from the model. We are indicating the design intent on where we want things to be aligned. And then we also use our 3D designs to extract them as views, like for example, the outdoor kitchen with the bar area or the fire pit below, and we directly dimension them from there. In other pages of the document, we also show all the finishes and everything. And yeah, we like this approach because nothing gets lost on translation. Everything is very clear to our clients from the beginning on what's going to be the final result.
I think, Jose, that's a really good point. I think a lot of times a client might see a project where there's a rendering that was done by a separate firm, and then the rendering is a nice, pretty little picture of what the house could look like. It looks very realistic. In contrast, our models are really they're working documents, and they end up being the construction documents as well as the visualization tool. So you can use it both as a rendering to understand the space from a design perspective, but then there is no loss of translation when we take that same design that you've approved and we turn it into a set of construction documents. So the loss in translation, it's a very real thing that can happen, but the fact that we have one source of truth, that truth being the 3D model and the design that the clients have approved, really prevents that loss in translation that Jose was referring to.
Yeah, and we even share our 3D models with the contractors, so they also, in addition to they will have all the information in our plans, but they are finding it very useful to have the 3D models because they can find all the information there as well. We share our 3D models with all the consultants too, structural, civil. We sometimes need to make screenshots to clarify some areas, and it's super useful.
We haven't touched really on VR with regard to landscape service, but that's included and available to all clients who sign on for this. It's not an extra service. It's actually part of our own internal design process sometimes to check things in VR before we send them out for client review. So anytime you want to come in the office and put the goggles on, you're very welcome. We promise we won't take a video of you walking around the office with those goggles on.
Yeah,
but
and it's actually great, because in addition with the virtual reality, in addition to knowing how it's going to look, you can experience it, and you can already experience the scale of things. You can comment not only on the finishes and how it's looking, but actually the sizes of everything, like saying, okay, yeah, I want this to be a little bit smaller or this a bit bigger, because you are actually experiencing the scale of everything. So super useful.
Super useful. All right, great. Well, to all of our viewers out there, I want to thank you for watching this video, a part 2 video on landscape design services at Studio S Squared. Any questions, please contact us directly. You can find our contact information on our website, which is, you can see here on the lower right, studios2arch.com. Please follow us on Instagram. We have a fairly active page there where we're always posting our new work and work in progress, and sometimes even information about our awesome team. So again, want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. Hope you learned something. Hope you had fun as we did, and hope to see you in our office designing a project with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.